Are you getting into fishing and you're trying to figure out what lures you need to use? This video is for you. Let's get to it. So, if you're a beginner fisherman or you're trying to get into fishing and you've got all the questions like we all had when I first started. What kind of rod do you use? What kind of reel? Is there any difference in the reels that you're supposed to use? Mono versus fluorocarbon versus braid and things like that. What kind of lures do you use? Is it better to use live bait versus lures? What kind of lures if you're going to use lures, so on and so forth. I'm here to make it as simple as humanly possible. So if you're first getting into fishing and you haven't even bought your first rod yet, we're gonna go over all of that. 1, so it can save you money. 2, so it can save you stress. And 3, it's gonna help you go out and experiment and figure out the type of fishing that you like to do. So today I'm gonna go specifically over freshwater. Almost all of these will work in saltwater, but they're better for freshwater, so that's what we're gonna start with. Today, this video is specifically going over lures. If you're a beginner fisherman and you wanna save a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of stress, I would argue start with lures. And the reason why is because if you're starting out and you're going out with live bait, 9 out of 10 times you are going to catch a lot of fish with live bait, but also if you don't catch fish, you've wasted a bunch of money and you don't get to do it again without spending that money again. So lures, I used to be all into live bait, thought it was the best thing ever. It still is very great. However, I've really fallen in love with fishing with lures because you can catch a lot of fish, and if you watch this channel, you know that. So we're gonna start with my top 5 favorite lures and lure categories for those of you who are getting into fishing. So there are gonna be some basic ones that I'm going to leave off that are really, really good for beginners because it's a different style of fishing that I haven't done just yet. And so I didn't feel that I should speak on them because I haven't gone out and messed with any of them. Not because they don't work, but it's just because I find what has been working for me and I stick with it. It's kind of my flaw. I don't really branch out that much. So that will change in the future, but let's get right into it. So my first one I'm gonna go with are gonna be crankbaits. And so if you're a beginner fisherman, these are super, super awesome. Okay, so they're kind of like this. The bills, which is what these are gonna come in different styles. You'll have a square bill, you'll have a rounded one, you have a really long one so that you can dive super, super deep. And so the style of the bill will determine how it performs in the water. And so a lot of the times when you tie it on, and when you pull the line, this happens. And so it digs and then it moves like this. And so it kind of jiggles back and forth. And then you hear, it's got a tiny bit of a rattle in it. So every time this moves and rattles, they're gonna hear that noise. It's gonna mimic fish that are feeding. It's gonna mimic a lot of activity. So it's gonna get them curious and they're gonna come over to the lure and then it dives deep. And so this one will dive about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet. And then it's a very, very slow rise. And so let's say if you jerk the rod, it's gonna come down and slowly come back up, go down, slowly come back up. And so it's gonna mimic a wounded fish. And so that's really good. So it's gonna look like a wounded fish. It's gonna make all that noise and all those vibrations it's gonna make in the water. So if you don't know, a little bit of science, all fish have a lateral line that goes through the middle of the side of their bodies. And it detects vibrations. It lets them know when a predator is coming and lets them know when there's anything nearby. So if they're hungry, they can go get it. Or if they feel the need to defend themselves and chase something off or escape a predator, it helps them with that. And so every time this thing rattles, it is detected by that lateral line and it brings them over to investigate what's happening. So I love these because they make a lot of noise. And if you do a steady retrieve and you're not doing pauses or jerk actions, it's still gonna move through the water, make a bunch of noise, and perform really, really well. So I love these because it's not a lot of effort and you can catch fish without having to know too much on how to entice them. If you're circling a pond, let's say, and you throw this, you have a really good chance at catching something without having to do very much. Here's another example of that. This is a Yuri. These are super, super popular. This one is mainly for saltwater, and you can see it's got that shiner, Menow type glare on it, all that fluorescence you see, it's to mimic the sun hitting scales of like a silver looking fish. And then on the top, of course, just to make it look a little bit more natural. And you see this one's got a really small bill. So this one's only gonna dive about 1 to 1.5 feet. And the reason for that is you're supposed to throw this where there's other bait fish. And so it kind of blends in with that school. Toss this really close to a mangrove and you can get some snook, maybe some redfish and things like that. So this one kind of stays subsurface is what I would call it. It's not right on the top like the ones I am gonna show you. We do have that category, but crankbaits are really good because they rattle, they make noise, they draw a lot of attention, and you can catch a lot of different fish with it. You can actually target a whole bunch. And even if you're not targeting, they work well enough to draw in multiple species, so that's good. So crankbaits are one of my top favorites. This other category is just like a crankbait. It makes noise. It's got the rattles in it, but these are meant to stay like an inch or so below the surface. And so this one is called a jumping Menow, and all these are dirt cheap. Every lure that I have up here is under $5. And so this one's good. You do a technique called walk the dog. And so basically in the water, it goes up and then this way, and this way, this way on top of the surface. That's what it looks like. And it rattles every single time you do it. And this is really good to bring fish from the bottom to the top. So if it's like midday and they want to stay cool, the top of the water is really hot, this makes enough noise and enough commotion on top that it'll bring those fish from, let's say, 3 or 4 feet down. They'll come up and see what the commotion's all about, grab it, and you're in for a good time. So that's one. This one's really skinny, makes a whole bunch of noise. Another one would be this one. You can see my, look, last time I caught a snook on this was the last thing I caught on this, and see what it did to my hook there, bent it. So I gotta bend it back in, or I can just replace it, but that's a different video. This essentially does the same thing. Hear that rattle? It's really, really good, entices fish. Wants them to, they want to come up and see what the commotion is all about. And so this is another good one. This one actually will go about 6 inches below the water. And so again, you just can walk the dog with it. You can just steady retrieve. It does a really mild, minor shake, but it makes enough noise and causes enough vibration that it'll get something interested. So that's a really good one too. It's light. Very good one to use. You can get snook with that. You can get redfish with that. You can get bass with that. It's really good. I haven't caught a bass on that one. I have caught snook on it. I've only used it for freshwater, but it's really good. Another style of crankbait, we're moving on to number 3 here, would be a lipless crankbait. So you see it doesn't have that bill in the front. And when you reel, it actually turns this way and shakes really aggressively as it goes through the water. So it almost goes in as a diagonal, and you hear that noise. And so I've caught all kinds of fish on a lipless crankbait. It was my favorite for a long time. Caught me a lot of bass on it, caught me a lot of ladyfish on it, got a trout on it. And so these are really, really good. And I like them because you don't have to do much. You literally just cast it and you can steady reel, or you could try different retrieves. But if you're just starting out, you want something that you don't have to do very much with. You want it to be easy so you can kind of learn and pick up on things as you go out each time. And so this is a good one. Tie your line on there and that's it. You just reel it and it shakes like crazy, goes through the water, makes a ton of noise. Doesn't dive super deep, but it works very, very well. If you're pond fishing, these are winners, hardcore winners. And they make a lot of ones that are just like that. So moving on to, I forget what number we're on, 3rd or 4th, but we'll just move on to the next one, which is another one of my favorites, are paddle tails. Soft plastics like so. Now, I'm not gonna get deep into water clarity because water color is really gonna depend. It's gonna help you choose what color lure you're gonna use, right? So you have different colors. You have this dark brown one with gold flakes and that green tail. You've got a white one, white and silver with silver flakes paddle tail. You've got a solid white one that's even bigger. You put on different color jig heads. You swap that out as much as you want. This one's only on this one because I wanted to try it out and kind of see how it performs. I haven't gone out and used it on this jig yet. I have used it on this jig head, which we'll go over, but soft plastics are really good also, especially paddle tails. They have such crazy action in the water. Like if you're an ambush predator or if you're a hungry predator and you see this in the water, you can't help not go investigate it. And if you're hungry, there's no way they don't bite this. And so I've got this on a white jig head just so it stands out. We've got 3 different colors here, all of which are natural in the waters that I fish in. So this is a good one, super easy. Some soft plastics will come on jig heads, but they are more expensive. It's better to just buy your own jig heads separate and then go out and get your soft plastics. And so this bag of soft plastic cost me about $5 from Walmart. And I'll show you some other ones that have always produced every time that I use them. So I haven't used this one yet. We're actually gonna go try it out. So this baby, I've caught a bunch of bass on this. If you watch my Blue Cypress video, the first one I put up about a year ago, where my brother and I were catching all kinds of bass on this one. This is called a Fluke, and they come in different styles, but the paddle tail is what's really, really important. Same with this one here. This one's a little bit smaller and real easy to rig. And you'll see that there's like a little slit right there. So your hook will come out of there and turn it back around. We'll do rigging these up in a separate video. I'm just telling you what you can use to start out. And this is a really good one. My absolute favorite of all time though, which is a recent favorite because I actually haven't used them up until I caught the peacock bass, which you can watch that video on my channel. But this is a scented paddler slam Shady. Now these come in 2 different styles in terms of like design. This has been my top favorite one because the performance in the water with these ones specifically is immaculate. It is so awesome. If you watch that video with the peacock bass, I had it on a jig head just like this. The only difference is the one that I used, I think, was a complete circle. You can see this one's kind of narrow, but it is red with a big white eye. And it's got this baby on it. And I caught a peacock bass on it. A lot of people think you can't catch peacock bass on lures. I was one of those people who thought it. I thought live bait was really the only way to do it. Not the case. I put this baby in there, caught it, and it was amazing. So paddle tails, soft plastics are a very good way to go. Now, last but not least, my favorite of all time, every freshwater fish I've ever caught, I've caught on this lure. It is the most basic, the most simplest, less than $1 to get them. And if you know me, you already know what I'm about to show you. Rooster Tails. Rooster Tails are my freaking go-to. All it is, right? And so this one's a 1/4 ounce. So this gives me really good casting so I can get, good distance on the cast. It's got that spoon that's gonna spin in a circle real aggressively. And if it's a sunny day out and that sun's hitting that, you get so much action in terms of like visually for fish. You can't not see this thing in any color of water. Clear water, dark water, milky water. I've caught fish, any freshwater fish I've ever caught, I have also caught on a Rooster Tail. And they come in all different kinds of designs and colors. Here we've got a green and orange with black dots. You've got that chartreuse, like green, lime green, neon green, tail right there, that teaser, and then your treble. This one is just white, silver, looks really good in water of any color, and it is just so good at producing that it's crazy. I'm obsessed with it. I use it on my micro rod, I use it on my light action rods, I use it on my big rods, and they always deliver. No matter the time of year, I've always caught a fish on this. I would even say fish with this first. If you're just starting out and you're trying to figure it out, go spend less than $1 on a Rooster Tail and go out and pond fish. And you will catch fish. I promise you, you will catch fish. Doesn't matter the time of day. You do want to pay attention to feeding times, but you can catch just about anything on this. And so those are my top 4 or 5, however many I just went over. If you're beginning, if you're just now getting into fishing, those are some easy lures to go out and get. They're very affordable, and you can go out and you can catch fish, and you don't have to know a lot. You don't have to know a lot about feeding times. Don't have to know a lot about, water clarity and any of that stuff. Different types of retrievals. You can just cast them out, reel them in, catch fish. And so I hope that helps you guys that are just out there getting started. And it can get a little confusing when you're talking about weights and all that other jazz. Watch the last video that I posted about how to pair up your rod to your reel to the line. And so how to match them up for best rod performance if you're just getting started. I go over the easiest way to figure that out if you don't know anything about fishing. How you can just walk into a store, make sure you're getting what's going to perform, and then take that video, pair it with this video, and get you the lures that are going to perform the best. And you don't have to know that much about it, and you will catch fish, I promise you. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you got any value out of it, please hit the like button. I really need you guys to hit the like button. It really helps the channel. And if you're somebody who is appreciative of learning this and you want other people to get some value out of it also, who may want to get into this sport, then it'll really help if you like the video. So, as always, live your life, live your truth, and have some fun.